Hello! Welcome back to your story time. Tonight is chapter 2, and if I look the same, it's because I'm recording this on the same night I recorded chapter 1, but you have to wait a whole 24 hours for the next installment. I apologize. So here we go. If you recall, when we last met Courtney and Jonas, Courtney had just ran into him, and he, being super cop, held on to her, wouldn't let her go. So that's where we are. And scene. The woman with the truth problem tried to wiggle out of Jonas's hold. You have to let me go. Not going to happen. With his patience expired, he shot her as best. I'm done here, glance. I haven't done anything wrong. The tension over her shoulders eased. She switched from fighting to boneless. But he wasn't ready to trust her, so we held on. From my experience, innocent people don't run. You're kind of big to be that naive. Sounds like you have trust issues, but he reached for his radio. In that brief span where his fingers didn't wrap around her arm, she took off. You've got to be kidding. You're running? She crossed over the gravel road, separating the back of her private property from the protected forest behind. Turning to the left, she slipped along the fence, running parallel to the tree line. Not once did she look back. The great escape took all of 2 seconds and left him staring in reluctant admiration. At least he wasn't alone in his cluelessness. He realized she actually believed she could pull this off. He's such a douche. Sorry. Just my opinion. Margaret. He searched his brain for the name she'd used and shouted that one even louder. Courtney! When she didn't stop, he took off after her. He could stay still and aim, call out a warning, then hit the ground right near her with a shot. The move would scare the crap out of her, but he decided not to play it that way. Yeah, there would be a lot of paperwork if he just decided to shoot his gun at someone. Probably some lawsuits as well. Police can't just pull out their gun whenever they want to play with it. I'm still laughing at that. He ran behind her, gaining on her and closing the distance with each step. Years of training, all those physical fitness tests served him well. At 33, he still ran a 7-minute mile. Shame he hated running so much. He'd almost reached her when her sneakers skidded on the loose stones and she dashed to the right. She headed for a small cutout in the fence where 2 poles met and only a slip of space waited. With a quick glance over her shoulder, she turned sideways and shimmied her way out through the impossibly small hole. Courtney! He grabbed her foot, but she kicked out, sliding out of his grasp as she tumbled back. A knee buckled, but she stayed on her feet. With a push off from her hand against the ground, she took off again. Magnus! I'm talking to Amelia, Magnus. You gonna say hello? You're kind of in the way. Okay, go on. Where am I? His string of profanity didn't stop her any better than the yelling had. He held the poles and tried to figure out an easy way in. His shoulders wouldn't even fit in the space, which meant he has to go over. I should have shot at her when I had the chance. The metal clanked as he moved down the fence line a few feet and curved his fingers through the chain links, ignoring the rough edges. Sorry, I thought I could just see Magnus lurking in the back. The metal clanked as he moved down the fence line a few feet and curved his fingers through the chain links, ignoring the rough edges slicing into his palms. He pulled his body up and over the 12-foot fence. Stop drinking my water! You are so annoying. Sorry, it's such an interrupted installment. By the time his feet hit the wet ground on the other side, she was gone. Not that hiding would save her. No, he was in this now. All traces of exhaustion and thoughts of sleep left his head. He would catch her, take her in, and probably issue a lecture or 2 in the process. Shouldn't strike him as a hard-edged criminal. But she was starting to act like one. From his experience, there was only one way to catch someone determined to flee. Rough and fast. Taking turns, keeping watch behind him and sweeping his gaze over the landscape in front of him, he stalked through the woods. The towering trees blocked the sun, letting only pools of light filter through. With his back against a tree, he scanned the area. A flash of red moved up ahead to his left. Found her. His steps quiet and firm on the slippery ground. He swung out wide, racing to her far side and hoping to come up behind her. He could see her in a clearing. Her arms never stopped working as she reached over an outcropping of rocks. She didn't do anything to hide the crunching of sticks beneath her feet or her deep breathing. Weapon close by, he shifted into an open area. Ahead of her, a dirt road led out, and curved deeper into the forest. This close, he could see he read the situation wrong. She wasn't standing by rocks. She tugged on a piece of tan canvas, a cloth that had blended into the landscape only a few seconds before. Her gaze darted around, checking the area behind her, but ignoring the rest of the woods. With a loud thwack, she snapped the material to the side before throwing it to the ground. "You have a car out here?" He spoke before his brain clicked into gear. The sunlight glinted off the metal in her hand when she spun around. "How did you—" "And a gun. A car and a gun. How enterprising of you, Miss Courtney Allen. Or whatever your name really is." He watched the weapon shake in her fingers and judged the chance of knocking her down without getting a bullet through his forehead. "It's Courtney," he snorted. "And why would I not believe you? It's not what you think." "What was your earlier comment about being innocent? Last I checked, innocent people don't have an escape plan." "I told you to leave me alone." "Yeah, that's not going to happen now. I can't have a woman racing around my jurisdiction with 2 names and a gun." His impression of her kept changing. He'd read her as a victim originally, but she sure seemed ready to pull the trigger now. "I haven't done anything wrong." Her voice wavered on the words as her chest rose and fell. "Threatening a police officer, resisting arrest, and I'm betting you don't have a license for that." He nodded in the direction of the gun leveled at him from a distance of less than 10 feet. "Do you think I care about a license? What I want is for both of us to live through the next few minutes. The best way to make that happen is for you to lower your weapon." He pressed his hand down, trying to get her to follow his lead and drop the damn thing. "You put it down, we talk, and this whole misunderstanding goes away." Her gaze darted to the left, then back at him. "It's not safe." Since he was looking down the barrel of a gun, he had to agree with her on that one. "I have a good office, quiet and private. We can talk there. Work this out." "I'm leaving." "We both are." He started lifting his hand to his shoulder, then stopped when she stepped closer, her finger inching towards certain death for him. How long is this? Oh, okay. It's short. What am I saying? This whole book is only 217 pages, and it's only this wide. And it's written for idiots. Horny idiots. Anyway. "Wait a second. I'm just trying to show you my radio. I called for backup." Her arms tensed to the point of snapping. "When?" "Never, actually, but he had no intention of telling her that." "There's nowhere to go." She shook the weapon at him again. "Drop the radio and the gun." "Courtney, if I take this gun out, if my fingers even get a quarter-inch closer to the trigger, I'm going to aim it at you. Do you understand that?" "I do now." She pointed the gun at the car. "Get in." He'd been expecting surrender. Thought maybe she'd even engage in a little smart panic. An offer for a ride took him by surprise. He forced his mouth in a flat line to keep from giving his shock away. "Excuse me?" "You're coming with me. I'll drop you off up the road." She nodded her head and repeated the comment, as if getting comfortable with the idea. That made one of them. "I wouldn't even fit in that car, Courtney. The vehicle, if that was what it was, looked more like an egg with a steering wheel. With mud and leaves caked to the wheels, he doubted she'd even get it to move. And then there was the part where he wasn't getting in. His self-defense presentations all the time what? That makes more sense. He gave self-defense presentations all the time and had one very simple rule. Do everything you can to not get in a vehicle with your attacker. She frowned at him. "Your comfort is not my main priority?" "Clearly. But do you really want to add kidnapping to your list of crimes?" "I want to be able to get a head start, up the road a bit. You'll get out, and the radio will stay with me. By the time someone picks you up or you get out of the forest, I'll be long gone." She ticked off the specs as if she'd had them memorized. "Sounds like you've had this plan brewing for a long time." "You have 10 seconds." She started walking, backing her way toward the car before bracing her shoulders against the door. The move took away the option of wrestling her to the ground, or at least made it harder. Or, I'm going to shoot you. I doubt that, he said, even as he believed the opposite was possible at this point. I have nothing to lose. Do you really want to test me? She whispered the words. Oh, but I didn't. But they echoed through the woods with the force of a fierce shake. He read the desperation in her eyes. Worry and fear showed in the tight lines in her face. People pushed to the edge often did dumb things. Add in a weapon, and the chance for idiocy tripled. At this range, she'd likely hit some part of his body, and he had quite a few he wasn't ready to lose just yet. That left only one or two options, none of them good. He could draw his weapon, likely get off a shot before she knew what hit her. He could rush her and risk a bullet. Even if he hit her, one or both of them would get hurt. Or he could wait it out as he tried to figure out who she was and what had her so willing to throw her life away to get out of Aberdeen. The curious part of him wanted to go with the latter. Something about her had him intrigued. Probably it's something to do with this being the first time he'd stood on the wrong side of a gun held by a woman. He had plenty of males shoot at him, men and boys, but she was the first female. He lifted his hand away from his gun and raised his palms in the air. My shift is over, by the way. I should be at home sleeping. She shrugged. You're the one who came to my door. The woman has an answer for everything. And believe me when I say I regret that. Drop the radio on the ground and kick it to me. Rather than debate, he unclipped it from his shoulder and threw it at her feet. When she smashed her heel into the speaker and kicked the broken shell into the thick underbrush to her left, he winced. Was that necessary? Yes, now the gun, she ordered. No way was he giving up his weapon. Didn't matter that he had another one at his ankle, and a small knife, Jesus, at the ready in his back pocket. Getting disarmed by 120 pounds of lady trouble was not on his daily agenda. I told you what would happen. What would happen if I touched it. I can't trust you not to pull it on me in the car. True, he took a step toward her. But I could have drawn numerous times during the last half hour, and I didn't. I decided to ride this out. Until you give me a reason to think otherwise, I'm content to keep the gun in the holster. The seconds ticked by, with the rustle of branches and squawking of birds. The sounds of the forest surrounded them. Neither of them moved. When the human silence threatened to blanket them, she opened the passenger side door of the creek and put one foot inside. Go around and get in. Oh, my hair. Ugh. I'm driving? Unless you want to ride in the trunk. He followed her gaze to the back end of the car. He doubted he could get a leg in there. Next thing she'd suggest tying him to the roof. He opened one hand. Keys? She reached into her pants, pulled out a single key. Thought you'd pick that option. I mean, you hoped that I would. She threw the key. That too. And there's a cat butt. Lovely. I hope you enjoy. And tomorrow night you'll get chapter 3. Hooray! Nighty night, my dear.